Welcome to She Did It, the Hopecast, the podcast where Simone Lersch, Katrin Schwierz, and Ariane Bischoff talk with women from the EWMD network about personal crises and the path they found to overcome them. Here, you'll discover inspiring stories, courageous women, and the hope for navigating difficult times. Good morning, everybody, or good day, depending on when you listen to the EWMD podcast. She Did It. It's the 4th season, the Hopecast. We decided to use the Hopecast in these difficult times we are all living in. And today, my guest is Evelyn Ramforth from EWMD Berlin Brandenburg. I imagine she lives in Berlin, but we will hear about that in a minute. Evelyn has been with us in the network for a year and a half, and I'm very happy to have you here with me today. Thank you so much for joining. And I'm curious to listen to your introduction because we don't know each other yet also, and to also hear about your story that gives us all hope how to get through challenging times. Stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Ariane. So my name is Evelyn Ramforth, and I'm originally from South Africa and moved to Germany about 12 years ago. I'm based in Berlin, in Schöneberg in Berlin, and part of EWMD Berlin Brandenburg. My background is in chemistry, so I spent 12, almost 13 years in the platinum mining industry in South Africa, where I come from, and both in the lab, in the plant, and as well as a market analyst. And during that time, I connected with BASF in Germany because I was on a project together, and then found out about the Mannheim Business School and came over to do my MBA. And during that time, I decided to stay and also met my husband at the same time in Mannheim, and then joined the scientific publishing industry in product management and innovation, which I had no clue about, but started to learn after my MBA. And I was very thankful that they could join the dots and see that a chemist and market analyst could play a role in product management and innovation. And then came over, spent 9 years. However, in 2023, I got a fantastic offer to move to Berlin to run a new innovation lab for a scientific publisher. And 18 months into the role, the company started restructuring, and that's when I had to leave. And so this brought me to it being in a new city in Berlin. We've moved everything from Heidelberg, where we lived before, and finding my way in 2024, navigating the situation in Berlin.
Okay. And navigation the situation in Berlin, where the Hopecast is about challenging difficult times, and sharing your ups and downs, or sharing your ways how you tackle them, how you handle them in a business as well as in private life. Then I guess, was it for you the first challenge to leave South Africa and come to Mannheim, or was the bigger challenge the situation in 2023 when the great assignment turned out to be a less great assignment?
Yeah. So the moving from South Africa to Mannheim wasn't as challenging because within South Africa, I moved from my hometown to 800 kilometers away where the mining town was. So, and then I moved to different cities as well for in the company. So that was not the big challenge. The biggest challenge was finding your dream role and then losing it and then navigating that. Yes. The job loss at the end of 2023 and figuring out what that's going to look like.
You described it as getting the dream role and then losing the dream role. How was the feeling when you got the dream role? When and why dream role?
Yeah. So when I was in the product management role at Springer Nature, I was upskilling myself on the innovation side and pushing boundaries and working on digital transformation and in digital topics, and then finally got to do some courses. And then the moment came when I got offered this role at Wiley to implement the new innovation lab and learn the innovation process from Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I
lovely.
didn't want to work for Amazon, but I was excited that I'm going to learn from my new boss who was coming from Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
who led innovation, the working backwards process and design thinking on the job, and now owning that role. And so not just the buzzword innovation, but in a big ship where the company is has more than 5,000 people, more than 100 years old, and now being able to be in the role of innovation, be responsible for it and making it happen. And so this was, for me, the dream, and not just learning and not playing it in different ways, but now owning it. Yeah.
I imagine, yes, that sounds like a super role. And especially, as you mentioned, getting the toolkit from the Amazon toolkit, which has proven to be not the most stupid toolkit ever,
Yeah, exactly.
but has proven to be a very successful toolkit. Okay, lovely. And you were 18 months on the job.
Yeah.
And tell us about would you want to share a little bit about your experience with the
Yeah.
18-month and the toolkit and the innovation, the role? It was a dream role, a dream setting. And how were the 18 months then?
Yeah. So the 18 months started with the boss who hired me when I arrived into the role, had told me that I will have a new manager. And so,
Okay.
so it started off, okay, that's fine. Let me work with that. And I have an agile mindset. So let's be open and learn. And so I was the only one based in Berlin, and Berlin was, it was decided that Berlin would be the strategic arm for innovation from the company to be a first best case. And even though the company is headquartered in the US. So the rest of my team was in the United States and one other colleague in Athens. And I was really excited about this. And what was interesting was the honeymoon phase started with the first 6 weeks where I went to the US and spent 6 weeks there with a conference with the team and got to know a little bit about the innovation process. And then the new boss said, it's fine. We know you have a trip with your husband in medicine. You can do all of that together. That's perfectly fine. And then after the 6 weeks coming back to Germany, the real honeymoon phase was over of getting started in a new company. So there started to be a lot of documentation, because not only leading the process from talking to people, but documenting. And that was really hard because I love interacting with people, but sitting and documenting and writing how the process is going was draining. And what I mean by this is one of the processes I learned is this working backwards process, which is a facilitation process, 5 steps, how Amazon works with an idea and then arrives at a prototype or a solution. And the one step is a workshop, facilitating a workshop with 20 people online, mostly executives and customers,
Mm-hmm.
and 3.5 hours on a workshop online is very draining.
Yeah.
And the study scientifically says that you should not do that for 3.5 hours online.
Right.
In the live setting, which have run workshops before around the world in different settings, you cannot do 3.5 hours at one go. And so we only had one break in between. So that was really challenging. However, I was learning and super excited about that and learning how to manage difficult stakeholders, and 20 is too big for people online. So there was a mix of that, but the joy was learning this process. There's the process for innovation, implementing it, testing it directly with people, and wanting to come up with new products for the scientific publishing industry, who's really facing a challenge at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have no choice but to be innovative.
Yeah.
So that was a little snapshot. Of course, there's a lot more.
So you had the honeymoon and then the hard landing coming back to Germany. And was the hard learning because it sounds like you mentioned you were the only one in Berlin and the actual company was not there. The actual company was in the US. and with one employee in Athens, you mentioned?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And then setting up a whole new process in Berlin for an international company. Yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, they had an office in Berlin, but I was the only one from my new team here.
Okay. Okay.
However, the team in Berlin, the office made up of 70 people, and not everybody's there. And many people were skeptical about this new innovation business
Okay.
because people were like, yeah, we're innovating. We don't know why we need an innovation.
We're already doing it. Why we don't need you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes, I can relate with that. Yeah, I relate with that very well because I got a job offer and I was very excited. I went to the Netherlands, and a Dutch company bought a German company, and they told me, you're product manager for this product line, and we have to speed it up. And one of my first things I did, not knowing better and not meaning wrong, I picked up the phone and introduced myself to the people to the team in Germany. And the person that I had on the phone, to whom I introduced myself by saying, Ariane Bischoff, I am the new product manager for the product line XYZ. He's like, no, you're not. It's me. I'm the product manager. Okay. So my next move was getting in the car and going over them and meeting them. But you can imagine, yeah, warm welcome with open arms.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
How did it feel to work with the colleagues, the 70 other colleagues? It was difficult, but it changed over the time?
So the colleagues in Berlin were really supportive because they were there's a bigger office in Weinheim, and they finally felt that the company made some investment to support them in Berlin, and finally recognized the potential of being located strategically in Berlin. And yeah, so from their side, I got a lot of support. What happened was the team in the US didn't understand how German business operates.
Yes.
So, for example, in a very senior role, one of the challenges I had was when my manager said, like, you have to wait until I'm online to have a talk to anyone in the office.
Okay.
And this was a bit challenging because that doesn't work when you go to the office in Berlin. You cannot say to your colleagues, I'm not talking to you about a topic in the corridor because I have to wait for my team in the United States. No, that's not working. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Time delay. Hello.
And we are not kids. So, so I learned from my previous team that they were still not used to how business in Germany operates, that you meet each other in the corridor, you have the coffee, and they all were working remotely from home. So they were not having this experience of the office setting. And also, I say it respectfully, the attitude was, we are the head office, we know what we're doing. I'm not sure that the people in Berlin know what they're really doing. So
Okay. Lovely. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Yes, but I see there a bit of a clash. It's not only a culture clash, it's also maybe an attitude clash.
yes, yeah. And
Yes.
I also, put the question back, like, to bring it back on a topic. We're talking about innovation to bring the company forward to make business. It's not about nationalities and not about whether people in Germany know how to do it better or the USA. We all want to work together for a solution.
Yes.
So then I realized politically the playing field was completely set up. I would say, I shouldn't say it's like the way the politics is playing out today, but this unconscious mindset about how business can be done from the USA and how business is being done in Germany.
Yeah. And when we're talking about innovation, I mean, you're describing a hierarchic situation where the US team truly believes to be in a superior role, in a leading role and above and leading the German team, but in a innovation circumstances or innovation field, hierarchy is not helping. Hierarchy is not a driver to boost innovation.
Exactly.
Is that right? Would you see
Yes.
it different?
I totally agree, because the way their process for innovation is set up and the people is set up to work non-hierarchical on the same level. And that's what we try to drive in that process, to bring everyone on a peer level. However, the change management did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the team didn't want to address that because they felt it's not necessary. We've done it in Amazon. We know how it works. So,
Okay.
however, when you're bringing people from 100-year-old company or more, these are people, and it's going from the mindset of a hierarchy into the innovation setup to find a solution is not working. Yeah.
How did it feel for you to sitting in between, trying to bring things together?
It was really frustrating, and really frustrating, because every time you move forward, then there is an obstacle. However, we managed to implement the innovation lab at the team in Berlin and sign that off, and shareholders of the company were happy because they could see this on the press release. And that was rewarding, learning this process. Yeah, but frustrating, really frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine. I'm just wondering, I'm just trying to picture you walking home on one of those, again, frustrating days and thinking, dream role, duh.
Yeah. Yes. And my highlight was in Warschauer Strasse, because the office was near Warschauer Strasse, getting on that bridge to go take the S-Bahn back to Schöneberg. And then I heard people like a guy playing music. And that inspired me, because I felt there's the real life, the real problems that are really happening here. And the guy is still playing his music in in a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
And then we are talking about political challenges to drive innovation, which for me felt like so weird. And
Hmm.
yeah, and being in the new city, thankfully, what helped was our neighborhood, the Kiez. We live in a Kiez in Schöneberg. The neighborhood, this is the people from the local church we go to, or the friends. This setting made it really fun to still be in Berlin, a new place. And otherwise, it would have been really challenging if it was only navigating with the work.
I imagine, yeah. So your husband, he joined you in Berlin? He came with
Yes,
you?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your husband, your family, when looking back to Mannheim, now being in Berlin, how was that? Did that make it more difficult, or actually, you mentioned Berlin is actually quite nice?
Yes. So I forgot to mention that after the first year in Mannheim, I moved to Heidelberg when we got married. And my husband is also from the south of Germany. And so it was different, from the sense that I thought Heidelberg was extremely open-minded. And when I came to Berlin and Schöneberg, then I realized it's even more open-minded.
Okay.
And so this was a surprise experience. And I think it's also about the bubble that we are living in, because the people in the Kiez are really kind, and we're not anonymous, which was a surprise to me. I had expected the worst for Berlin,
Uh-huh.
but pleasantly surprised. Yes.
Lovely. So you said the church, because sometimes the big question is what helps one in difficult times. And you mentioned the church as being your neighborhood, and the church being a support, having been a support. Your husband, obviously, I imagine.
Yeah. Mhm.
Do you have other resources, other ways of coping with such a frustrating and stressful situation?
Yeah. So I'm going to the CrossFit training near me, and made friends there as well. And so, yeah, and having a large friendship network, as well as like the women's network, and going to different networks in Berlin. The
Hmm.
good part is, in Berlin, you have the opportunity to go every day to an event. However,
Hmm.
you don't have to do that. And so this helped as well, navigating the challenge with people on different topics and
Yeah.
going to those events. So, for example, I'm interested in working in the hydrogen space, with fuel cells for industry and transportation. And so last year, I just went to the Nordische Botschaft here
Hmm.
in Berlin, where they had several conferences on the topic and met really interesting people. And this also helped to navigate during this stressful period of uncertainty. The interviews are not working out, not getting the job. and what else can I do in this time. But I will also say hiking really helped me because I spend a lot of time hiking alone as
Yes.
well. And my biggest breakthrough was I received the ninth rejection end of September from an end-to-end 9 company processes over 9 months. And I was really at the end. And then I told my husband, Moritz, I think I have to go somewhere. And it was a Friday morning. And then I had the thought I have to go back to Bergen in Norway, where I went for a work trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I will go there for 3 days and hike and figure things out.
Okay.
And this really helped me. I was alone on a train from Oslo to Bergen, 7 hours, and just had the chance to write my thoughts down with my headphone, and the next day hike 20 kilometers, just letting my thoughts go and seeing what's happening. And this really brought so much of light and clarity on, okay, what do you want to do next?
Mm-hmm.
And then what came out from that trip was I have been coaching people voluntarily, and also had the coaching qualification for 5 years. But then it came to a point, no, it's time to launch this now. And it's called Finding My Way. And this trip, this hiking trip, really like put the exclamation on
Yes.
in this stress right now. You can do this. Yeah.
And then tell me what you're doing today, because it seems like that was a turning point, but help us understand where we got a good feeling, how stressful it was and how you got out hiking. It was finding your way by hiking through the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Where do you stand today? When was the hiking trip?
The hiking trip was on the 1st of October last year.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And what happened after that was I came back and shared the news with my husband about it. And then in November, I attended a freelance conference here in Schöneberg.
Mm-hmm.
And I met a couple of freelancers. And one lady said to me, "Why are you so afraid? Just do it. Get the tax number tonight." And what's the worst that can happen? And then that night, I used the software called Accountable,
Mm-hmm.
applied for the tax number, got it in less than 3 days from the finance amt, totally amazed. And then we set a deadline at home. My husband said, I will support you with the WordPress to put up the website. And then 24th of January, I launched. And so offering live coaching, career coaching, as well as design thinking coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and offer that to professionals and companies. And so that's what's happened since January, and a new phase. But 3 weeks ago, I was surprised that the hard work is paying off,
Okay.
because I have some clients, professionals who need help for coaching, and I have 3 organizations that approach me by going to events. One said, "Do you want to present a course in July on design thinking?" And so now I'm developing that course, which I didn't think I want to do courses on that, but it's fine. So a whole new setup has opened up.
Lovely.
And yes, so what came out is I have peace that starting this new chapter is the right thing to do, as well as applying for jobs in parallel now with a new mindset is different. So I feel I can do both, and why not?
Yes, I see. The big mindset in the sense of you have freedom to be independent enough to do your own thing, and therefore have the freedom to approach jobs that are the true dream role.
Yeah, I'm not sure if, I mean, back to the dream role, if I reflect on it, I don't know if it's really a dream role anymore, more accepting that, not the word accepting, using my skill set in the best way in a context, and it can be in an environment where a product is making a difference on somebody's life. And yeah.
Whether there's a ticket innovation written over it or not
Yes,
is
exactly.
is maybe not so important at the end of the day.
The title is not important, and being now 46 years old and having gone through the drama of like first time unemployed since October, and what does it exactly mean from financial aspects, and having worked more than 20 years. And like the point came out is it's not my identity. That
Yes.
every day I can decide new, and having a job or not having a job doesn't define my value.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very true. Very true. That is a lovely and a very important point that I think would like to use as an ending. The identity of you is not about your job. It's about yourself and your skills and what you want to do. And it's the circumstances which we need to seek and to find where we can bloom and flower, in the sense that all our capabilities and skills move things forward to the better for yourself and for the people you're dealing with, and for the products at the end, maybe even.
Yeah, well summarized.
Thank you so much for Evelyn for sharing your interesting journey from South Africa to Berlin via Bergen and the hike. I have a lovely picture in my head, and I can totally relate to breaking out, going out, and taking the time to write down and get fresh air and fresh in a fresh environment to reset and start over. As EWMD, I can only say if you have your course ready in design thinking, I'd be interested to join. So if you want to offer
Yes.
a course for our network, I'd be very interested. And but that's another topic which we will discuss on a later point. And for today, I would want to close and thank you very much for joining. This was our fourth session in the Hopecast, the EWMD podcast. She did it. Thank you so much, Evelyn Ramforth, for being with us.
Thank you so much.